It is time to roar around the ring coming off of SummerSlam in New Jersey. I'm Justin Valentine. 2 nights of SummerSlam for the first time ever and two controversial headlines, one for each night, right? Seth Rollins faking the injury after Punk defeated Gunther, cashing in to become world champion. And then night two ending with the return of Brock Lesnar. This after John Cena turned babyface within 3 days and dropped his title to Cody Rhodes, and Brock Lesnar F5ing John Cena to end SummerSlam. And that is where we're going to start because that has been most of the topic of conversation for most of this week within the wrestling world. Of course, Brock Lesnar has not been seen in a couple of years. And I want to just start off with the elephant in the room that a lot of people on social media are talking about. Of course, they're not going to bring this up on TV. His name listed in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. That's been a whole thing. People assume that's why he's been away from WWE. Maybe he would never be seen in WWE. Reports are, and these are just reports, that legal cleared Brock Lesnar a few weeks ago. Paul Heyman even talked about it in an interview with Ariel Helwani recently, saying that he's been cleared legally. And, that's as much as everyone knows. So he's cleared to be back. Everyone in MetLife Stadium loved it, according to Paul Heyman. And, it's tough to fully know what's going on legally behind the scenes. We know the headlines, we know what we know, and it's tough to really give a full opinion without knowing facts in a situation like that. We know the facts that we know about Vince McMahon, which is why we have not seen Vince McMahon in years, of course, publicly. He's not mentioned on WWE TV often, if ever. And of course, he's out of his role, allowing Triple H to run things because we know what we know. We saw what we saw. It isn't just allegations against Vince McMahon. We know the facts about that because we saw the evidence be posted to the public and released in that way. Brock Lesnar, again, was listed, but again, supposedly cleared by legal. That's a tough one to go back and forth on. Generally speaking, no, it's not a great look for the company because it is known that his name was listed in the Vince McMahon, lawsuit and so on. So even if we don't fully know whether or not Brock Lesnar is guilty or not, it's not a great look because he's involved in that, situation. And you'd like for that situation to be completely cleared out in terms of Brock Lesnar before you bring him back. But again, it's too tough to fully know. Either way, legally speaking aside, this doesn't make much sense. And this was probably the first time this whole weekend, and I'm talking about the John Cena storyline, the John Cena angle of it, the John Cena Brock Lesnar angle of it. This is probably the first time in the Triple H era I was watching and I thought, is Vince McMahon booking this thing? I mean, it's the first thing that wrestling fans go to every time they're upset with something that Triple H does. They go straight to, oh, Vince would have done this. Vince would have been better, right? Or is Vince booking? It's clearly still Vince, whatever it may be. It's the low hanging fruit. It's so easy to go there. And for me, it's mainly the John Cena, the quick turn for John Cena, right? The Rock abandoned this storyline after Elimination Chamber. Travis Scott was a mistake from the beginning. Paul Heyman even confirmed that WWE is done with Travis Scott after seeing him at WrestleMania. Why he was even involved in the first place is beyond me. That never made any sense. But of course, The Rock went on the Pat McAfee show to try to make sense of why he left the storyline, and he made it make even less sense than it already did. And John Cena and Triple H saved that storyline after WrestleMania. They got through the awkward build of WrestleMania with Cody Rhodes, and they saved that storyline afterwards, and it made it even more intriguing than maybe it was going to be, right? I thought this was a very unexpected turn for John Cena's final run. Him, of course, being a heel, him being a world champion, right? John Cena has done nothing but lose over the last few years in his part-time appearances in WWE, and now all of a sudden he's a world champion. On top of that, he's a bad guy, and now he wants to retire with the title, and he wants the company to start over in 2026 after he's gone, and he takes the title with him. It was very intriguing, and it gave us a lot of big names going after John Cena, a lot of old names that we haven't seen, right? We got the match with Randy Orton, we got the match with CM Punk, and there were other big names that you could have thrown at heel Cena. I'm not saying you go all the way to the end of the year. I'm not saying you actually allow Cena to retire with the title, but this storyline had a lot of legs. And sure, people didn't want to boo John Cena on the way out the door, but it's only August, right? This was the first weekend in August. there's a whole, second half of the year basically that we still have to go. Cena mentioned it on SmackDown. He's got about 10, 11 dates left. That's plenty of dates to make this make sense afterwards, right? And people weren't necessarily booing John Cena on his way out the door. Sure, he was a heel, but especially after that pipe bomb in the CM Punk storyline, a lot of fans were digging this John Cena heel, right? Even though he was a heel, they were cheering for the heel, just like we've seen in the past with a lot of other heels that work, right? A CM Punk, for example, going back 10 plus years in the summer of Punk. Let's remember CM Punk was the heel in that storyline. John Cena was the babyface, and yet he was still over as the heel. And that's kind of where John Cena went. And for me, the Vince McMahon comparison is how quickly they just dropped this entire John Cena storyline. John Cena got his ass kicked once in the contract signing with Cody Rhodes a few weeks ago. He disappeared. He comes back, and that all of a sudden, after months of telling this heel storyline, after months of him, talking about how he wants to retire as a winner, as a champion, because he's done nothing but lose as the good guy, and then he gets his ass kicked once by Cody Rhodes, not even in a match. He lost in a tag match previously, right, with Logan Paul, Money in the Bank. We're not going to talk about that with R-Truth, but not even a match. He gets taken out in a contract signing. And that's enough for John Cena to say, you know what, I'm done being the bad guy. I want to be a good guy, right? All of a sudden, he's John Cena again. He's superhero John Cena. It was so random that fans all weekend, right, the 2 nights between SmackDown and night 2 of SummerSlam, fans all over social media, all over the world thought, he's fooling us. This is heel John Cena again. This is going to be another turn at SummerSlam. He's going to make people believe, even after he came out at SummerSlam with the John Cena intro, people thought, okay, when within this match, which by the way, no rules in the match, so anything could have went. When in this match is John Cena going to screw over Cody Rhodes? He fooled Cody again. He's going to somehow, some way, someone's going to get involved. He's going to, cheat the win, take a low blow to win and remain champion and kind of go back to being the heel John Cena. That's what everyone expected because this was so random. Right? This was out of the blue. John Cena is just like that, going back to being the babyface. That wasn't the case. And then what happens 48 hours later? He proves heel John Cena right. Because John Cena, the heel John Cena, the whole point was, okay, I want to be a winner. I've been the nice guy. Yes, the fans turned on me, whether or not you agree with that angle or not. The main point was, this is my final year. I need to do this for me. I want to go out as a winner. I want to go out as a champion. And I've been the nice guy. And over the last 5 to 10 years that I've been around WWE, I've done nothing but lose. The second he goes heel, he wins at WrestleMania. He's the world champion. He has multiple successful title defenses and matches. He's a champion. The second he goes good guy, randomly out of nowhere, he loses to Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is once again our champion. And on top of that, he gets laid out by Brock Lesnar. And again, it's a debate. Who is choosing John Cena's opponent? Triple H claimed that John Cena wanted to face Brock Lesnar. I'm not sure if fans want to see a Brock Lesnar-John Cena match in 2025. Cena, of course, referenced that in his promo on SmackDown because that's something that today's WWE loves to do, right? Triple H is very active on social media. He's very aware of what the fans are saying on social media, the good and the bad, and he will use it on TV. See the Karrion Kross situation, which we'll get to that in a little bit. So John Cena uses that because people don't believe that John Cena actually wanted to face Brock Lesnar. John Cena had some interview during his movie shoot that people think he kind of contradicted what Triple H said. Either way, I understand whether or not John Cena wanted to face Brock Lesnar, there's a right way and a wrong way to go about it, right? And at the same time, there also needs to be a decision of like, okay, when John Cena gave his list of opponents, whenever that was this before the Rock situation? Was this before he was the heel champion? Right? Because of course, heel John Cena versus a Brock Lesnar would never work. So is this John Cena at the beginning of the year talking about wanting to face Brock Lesnar? Well, things changed. And we had a good storyline going. And whether or not you fully agree with John Cena being a heel, the Vince McMahon angle was when Vince McMahon got sick of something, even if the fans were into it, after months of telling a story, waiting for the long drawn out, finish to this story, he would just put an end to it right away without explanation, right? And Triple H has been good to draw things out. Sometimes, according to some people, a little too much. Well, now he had this whole thing drawn out with John Cena. We didn't know where this was going to lead. And then within 72 hours, one weekend of SummerSlam, he's a good guy again. And he is. He comes out and they solidified that even more so the SmackDown after SummerSlam, because who gets in his face but Logan Paul, the biggest heel that WWE has both in story and in real life, right? When John Cena was a heel, when they wanted to guarantee us, yes, he is a heel, what do? They paired him up with Logan Paul, right? Logan Paul is now paired up with one of the biggest heels in WWE right now in Drew McIntyre. So now John Cena, he's a babyface. Let's confirm him as a babyface. What better way to do that than put him face to face with Logan Paul, their match coming up in France. And it works, right? Because Logan Paul is hated. People want to cheer John Cena, but John Cena was already getting love and respect for the work he was doing as a heel. And that's the main point. And yes, he was probably going to be a babyface before he retired anyway, but there was a less random way to do it, right? With more reasoning behind it that made a little bit more sense. And there's a lot you could have done with Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is your champion now. You know, I thought a heel Randy Orton could make sense for him. So Cody Rhodes is your champion. I do love the fact that we get a Drew McIntyre involved in the world title picture. Drew McIntyre lays out Cody Rhodes. That match could happen at Clash in Paris or sometime soon. Finally, we get Drew McIntyre in the world title picture. You know, him and Logan Paul get the win over Randy Orton and Jelly Roll. Shout out Jelly Roll. Great match at SummerSlam. Great performance. He took a lot of big hits, right? It wasn't perfect, right? I guess if you want to be critical, one critique, you could tell he was waiting for the next spot, doing his best to remember the next spot or brace himself for impact for whatever that next spot was. The perfect example, even though he deserves a ton of credit for taking that splash through the announce table from Logan Paul. And you can blame the camera angles on this, the camera angle on Jelly Roll, maybe a little too long to show that Jelly Roll was placing himself perfectly, scooching himself up on the table, crossing his arms, bracing for impact. But overall, great performance. Randy Orton, though, could have been the guy going at Cody Rhodes instead of Drew McIntyre. You keep the title on John Cena. Randy Orton's pissed off at Cody Rhodes for not getting the job done, because we heard going into SummerSlam how much taking that title off Cena meant to Randy Orton. He told Cody Rhodes, you better get the job done. So Cody Rhodes failing to beat John Cena, that also would have elevated that story. We didn't even see Randy Orton on SmackDown, so maybe the heel turn is still coming because, you know, as you see John Cena turning heel to face, maybe we don't need as much reason as we used to. And I think that's the biggest thing with the Triple H era. Triple H, again, even though fans would be kind of annoyed with how long things would take in a storyline, it wasn't just a flip of a switch. Someone went from babyface to heel. Someone joined a faction. Someone turned on someone else, right? He drew that stuff out. And John Cena was full heel 3 weeks ago, not even showing signs of regretting what he's doing. And it's like, if you gave it up because Travis Scott walked away, Travis Scott was not as important to the storyline as they may think. And we were telling a good story without The Rock, you know, since February, March 1st. We've been telling a great story for 4 or 5 months without The Rock. So that's not the reason why we flipped. Right? That, again, the story was done well. So the positive of it is you get Drew McIntyre in the world title picture, and that's well-deserved. He's been telling great stories as a heel for a few years now. Of course, the CM Punk story is your top one. I don't see him taking the title off Cody Rhodes, but at some point, I think we get a CM Punk Cody Rhodes match, potentially WrestleMania in Vegas, which would then tie in Drew McIntyre and CM Punk if you drag out Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre for the rest of this year. So that part, that also makes a lot of sense. And I like that in terms of Drew McIntyre, even without him winning the title, he's in the main event. He's in the main scene. He'll be involved potentially in the world title picture leading into WrestleMania, maybe a top option for a potential winner for the 2026 Royal Rumble. He won't win it. But again, he'll be a top name that would lead to a top match, you would think, going into WrestleMania in Vegas. So that's a positive of it. But John Cena and Brock Lesnar, in 2025, they're both part-time. Brock Lesnar had this huge return at SummerSlam, not showing up on Raw, not showing up on SmackDown. John Cena talking about he only has 10, 11 dates left, so he's not showing up every week. And that's the other negative of it, right? John Cena was in storylines with guys like Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton and CM Punk, R-Truth even, who are there just about every week. So even though John Cena only has specific dates, His story could be told by someone else who is there. And now, whenever we get this Brock Lesnar match, maybe they're saving it for Survivor Series, a bigger show. Who's going to tell this story? Because John Cena's out there every week. Brock Lesnar's out there every week. Brock Lesnar shows up. And by the way, Survivor Series isn't until the end of November. So what are we doing until then with Brock? He showed up and then he went home? It's the same thing we dealt with Brock Lesnar years ago under Vince McMahon that people didn't like. People weren't into it. Whether or not the match was good, whether or not there was a title involved, whether or not he won or lost didn't matter. It was the build that irritated all fans watching because you put Brock in a big moment with a big name, and then he's gone for weeks. And he pops up for 1 or 2 weeks in a row, and then he's gone for weeks. We got away from that. We thought. And now John Cena only has 11 dates. You do the math on that, that's a little over, not even 3 months. And we got 4 months left of his retirement run, so he's not there every week. And by the way, that's including pay-per-views on top of Raws or SmackDowns, so that's not even weeks. And who knows how often Brock's going to show up. So there's a lot of on-screen problems as to why John Cena turning babyface, as much as we love John Cena, we want to cheer John Cena. He's funny. He's great on the mic. Great match, great performance with Cody Rhodes, probably his best match in 10 plus years for John Cena at SummerSlam. All that is valid and true. It doesn't take away the fact of how random his heel run coming to an end was, how random him being a good guy is because he is best friends tag teaming with Cody Rhodes on SmackDown after everything he said about Cody. Logan even called him out. He was praising Logan Paul. And okay, so we're just going to work around that by saying, you're a dumbass, Logan. Well, you were praising the hell out of Logan Paul a couple months ago. So there's going to be a lot of instances throughout this Cena storyline that doesn't make a bunch of sense because they're going to have to kind of backtrack everything he said for 4+ months. And you saw that with the Logan Paul promo on SmackDown. Logan Paul called him out. You praised me. We were best friends. We were partners. Cena's only response is, you're a dumbass. Okay, well, that's okay. Thanks for the explanation as to why you're no longer friends with Logan Paul as you were a couple months ago. The other storyline, Seth Rollins cashing in night 1 of SummerSlam, ending night 1 of SummerSlam that way. Faking the injury. Whether or not you admit it, Seth Rollins fooled a lot of people in the crowd. I saw it myself on social media in the comment section. A lot of people did not think this was a work. Seth Rollins, of course, has a history of injuries, showing up on Rich Eisen's show and in public. Becky posting with him and his daughter on crutches. They played this perfectly. And the best part about it is you took the Money in the Bank briefcase off TV. Because Money in the Bank cash-ins, time and time again, for the last 5 to 10 years, are less predictable than they used to be. Because you have the person holding the briefcase constantly reminding you that they are holding the briefcase. You have the announce team every world title match reminding us constantly, so-and-so is in the building with the briefcase. They might cash in. Every preview for a PLE match would be followed up with, and by the way, this could end in a cash-in. Well, okay, now it's top of mind. I've said it 1,000 times about this. Wrestling fans are not that hard to fool, especially with the Money in the Bank briefcase. If you just don't mention it, if you have the Money in the Bank briefcase holder involved in something else other than the world champion, we'll be focused on the world title match. We won't even think about the possibility of them coming out and potentially cashing in. Of course, there's going to be people out there always predicting it, but actually expecting it is different, right? Naomi's cash-in was done well at Evolution because we weren't thinking about Naomi. She was on SmackDown. It was a Raw title match, Rhea and Io. We weren't thinking about it. Same thing with CM Punk and Gunther. Great match. It was a possibility. Seth Rollins and Punk obviously hate each other, but there was enough people in the audience, especially the live audience, that believed that Seth Rollins was actually injured, so they were not actively thinking about Seth during this match. So when his music hit, even if you thought, man, wouldn't it be crazy, you didn't think it was actually going to happen because Seth Rollins was hurt. And then even when he did show up, Michael Cole sold it well because Seth came out in the crutches. So Cole's like, yeah, Seth has till next June if he can get healthy. So we just thought, okay, it was a stare down. It was a warning. And then they did it the way they did. It makes sense. Seth has done a lot of petty things to screw over Punk since Punk returned at Survivor Series a few years ago, traveling all the way to Saudi to screw over Punk as well. So all this makes sense. And it was great for Money in the Bank cash-ins because whether you fully believed it or not, even if you thought it would have been crazy, the possibility of Seth Rollins actually being injured was enough for you to still be shocked when his music hit for a cash-in. So that was a great cash-in. I also love this for the world title picture because you see on Raw the three names: LA Knight, CM Punk, Roman Reigns chasing Seth Rollins. When this world title was announced a couple years ago, it's obviously paired up with the WWE title, which has guys like Cody Rhodes and John Cena surrounding it. And we needed to protect that world title. We needed to make it feel like a big deal. Seth Rollins is one of the top faces in the company. And then you have three of the most hottest names in the company right now chasing Seth Rollins, not for the biggest prize in the industry in the company, but for the world title. And we could very well lead to a Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns WrestleMania match for the world title. One of the two nights of WrestleMania main evented for that world title with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. That's huge for that title. It would probably be the biggest match in that title's history. And this title run could easily lead to that world title feeling more important than it ever has. Honestly, for the name of the world heavyweight title, for the secondary world title, more important than it has dating back to when Triple H had it, when it was running Raw. And you had Goldberg coming over, which was a big deal, holding that title. Other than that, it always felt like the secondary world title. Now you got the biggest names going after that. So now it no longer feels like the secondary world title. This should definitely lead to a Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns WrestleMania main event. I definitely would go that route. LA Knight is great. I love LA Knight. He's not the guy to take the title off Seth. I think it's a good match. You could even go fatal four-way with these guys. I think you get another Seth Rollins CM Punk match. I would line it up like you did with Drew and Punk. Not sure Hell in a Cell is an option, but throw stipulation out there. And I think Seth and Punk could have a great match that Seth goes over in. You know, you could have Punk get screwed over. It could just be another bloody war, whatever it is, last man standing, Hell in a Cell. If you're doing Rollins and Punk one-on-one again, it doesn't look like we have another Bad Blood pay-per-view this year, so I don't know if we'll do Hell in a Cell, but some type of stipulation where they're going to beat the hell out of each other, where you'll still respect Punk even after that match, right? Remember, Drew took the loss to Punk in Hell in a Cell, but because of how great that match was, it didn't really hurt Drew's credibility. Punk obviously is a big enough star to move on. And I'm okay with that if that leads to what I think it could lead to in 2026 for CM Punk, which is a 2026 Royal Rumble win, which is kind of ironic with it being in Saudi. But CM Punk getting that win, and I would have night one main evented Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, night two CM Punk and Cody Rhodes for that title. People are thinking that Cody Rhodes could hint at turning heel if Randy Orton doesn't turn heel on him. What better way than going after a CM Punk, right? Having Cody Rhodes being the heel on CM Punk, or if CM Punk beats Cody Rhodes, Rhodes taking out CM Punk the night after WrestleMania to turn heel after he drops that title. It's a respect thing going into WrestleMania. Punk wins. Cody finally turns heel. Don't bring back the black hair. Please don't. AEW made that mistake. CM Punk could get that win and finally get his moment that we thought he was going to get at SummerSlam. You saw how much it meant to him at SummerSlam. You saw on Unreal how much it meant to him to main event WrestleMania. So he needs to have his moment on a big stage like that, beating Cody Rhodes for that title on WrestleMania, the actual main event of WrestleMania. Have him main event night two. All due respect, I'm happy for him. I don't view night one of WrestleMania as the WrestleMania main event. So I'd love to see CM Punk and Cody Rhodes main event night two of WrestleMania. Punk and the entire weekend holding up that title, not getting screwed over. And that could lead to a Cody Rhodes heel turn. That's 100% the route I would go, CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. But in order to get there, he'd have to put Seth Rollins over to elevate Seth Rollins as a world champion, wins over guys like LA Knight, CM Punk. You could do a fatal four-way with Roman. Maybe LA Knight takes the pin there as well. All those wins just elevate Seth Rollins as a champion. By the time we get to WrestleMania, it would have been 2 years since Roman Reigns has been champion. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he walks out of WrestleMania as champion as well. Or it's a perfect opportunity to give Seth Rollins a big one-on-one victory at this stage of their careers against a guy like Roman Reigns on a stage like WrestleMania to kind of solidify that he's your guy. You know, he's a top name. He's right next to Cody and Roman as the top names of this company, right? Seth Rollins gets that on night 1. CM Punk gets that on night 2. I think that's a solid way to go about your WrestleMania in Vegas coming up next year. If we get there, I think it's a win-win either way. I think it also doesn't hurt you to put the title back on Roman if Roman's going to stick around, because again, that world title being on the shoulder of Roman Reigns of all people, your biggest name next to Cody Rhodes, again, that world title feels just as important. A few other things to get to before we get out of here. I mentioned earlier Naomi cashing in on Evolution against Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, becoming the women's world champion, retaining at SummerSlam in a triple threat. She's defending on Raw tonight, at least when this has been posted. Seems as if we're leading to her and Stephanie Vaquer at Clash in Paris at the end of the month. I love Stephanie Vaquer. I don't see her getting this win for no other reason than Naomi deserves to hold this title. I'm not sure if they fully knew what they wanted to do with Naomi when she turned heel with Jade Cargill and that whole situation with Bianca Belair. But I think Naomi has found her groove as a heel. She's always been the babyface, right? And she proved she can be a star with TNA, but be a star as a heel, as a world champion. People love her. Her promos are fantastic. They're entertaining. She's obviously athletic. She is respected because she's a veteran. She's been around. Naomi deserves to hang on to this title. I have her retaining against Stephanie Vaquer. You could drag this to WrestleMania because you also got to remember she never really had a payoff with Bianca Belair. And right now, Bianca's on SmackDown. She's not fully back. If Naomi's your champion going into WrestleMania, why not give us a Bianca-Naomi match, right? That could also elevate into a Bianca-Jade Naomi match if it makes sense down the line with whoever's on whatever show. Royal Rumble could fix that, right? Jade Cargill lost to Tiffany Stratton, so she's not a champion yet. She could get involved. We still have a Bianca-Naomi match to have, and we still have a Bianca-Naomi-Jade triple threat match to have. And either one of those could be WrestleMania with Naomi as champion. Staying in the women's division, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, your tag team champions, beating Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez. I don't love it for the Judgment Day story because I feel like Raquel and Roxanne could have been champions a little longer to kind of push the whole we don't need Liv Morgan thing. I think Finn, at some time down the line, Finn Balor could turn Roxanne and Raquel heel with him when Liv returns. And I think we could very well have a Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio babyface turn in that situation. But Alexa Bliss deserves so much credit for how lovable she has made Charlotte Flair. And she's done that herself. And she's very lovable in this storyline. They've tried to turn her babyface multiple times, partially because of who her dad is and partially because of who she is. It's been tough for fans to get behind Charlotte Flair, but fans are behind Alexa Bliss. I didn't think this made any sense, but Alexa Bliss and Charlotte both deserve credit for making it make sense, and Alexa Bliss deserves credit for making Charlotte lovable so this makes sense. You saw the birthday situation on SmackDown. It's fun. It doesn't feel forced. It feels like the first time we're seeing who Charlotte actually is behind the scenes with the women's division, right? We know her and Becky don't love each other, but there's a side of Charlotte that she tries to post on social media and fans still don't believe it, that we're finally getting through on TV, and Alexa Bliss has brought this out of her. And the other side of it is, because it always happens because it's professional wrestling and it's WWE, we already love them together. Who knows how long this drags out? Whenever the turn happens, it's going to hit that much harder. Because when this first started, we thought, okay, who's going to turn on the other? And it wouldn't really mean much. We expected it. Now, just like that, whether Alexa turns on Charlotte or vice versa, and you could go either way. If Alexa ever gets involved with the Wyatt Six and her spooky side of her, you could go that route. At some point, you're thinking, okay, they're going to turn on each other. And just like that, this whole angle makes so much more sense. And that turn is going to hit that much harder, even though it was a turn we expected to begin with. And now, whether it's for WrestleMania this year, you could keep the titles on them for a minute. And it could be next year, next summer, whatever it may be. And that turn's going to be fantastic. Karrion Kross is supposedly a free agent. His contract is up. No deal has been reached at the time of recording. Fans are freaking out, and Karrion Kross was red hot, took the loss to Sami Zayn at SummerSlam. I didn't love that. I thought that was a good stage to start the Karrion Kross push, but if this leads to something of an angle, then I'd be more okay with it. I'm more mad at that because there's really no upside to pushing Sami Zayn in that capacity, because Sami Zayn has really been directionless for a few years since he left the bloodline, not letting them be the goofy babyface or the goofy heel. He's kind of awkwardly in the middle. This angsty guy that just is emotional all the time. It's tough. Fans love Sami Zayn. Fans love Sami Zayn's theme, but it's tough to fully get behind it. But I will say I will not believe the Karrion Kross situation until he shows up on another brand, on another company. Because Triple H knows how to get fans to react. He knows what fans are looking for on social media. He's very aware of that. He's proven that time and time again. Look at R-Truth. Look at the Cody Rhodes WrestleMania main event situation, right? Karrion Kross has been moved to the alumni section. He knows fans look at that. I'm not saying it's a guarantee it's a work, but just because that's happened doesn't mean this isn't a full angle. And I have a hard time believing the "We Want Kross" chants and how over Kross has been over the last few months, that Triple H would let Kross walk. He feels like a Triple H guy. He's not the biggest name that WWE would lose to AEW, but if he walks, it'd probably be the worst timing of anyone that left WWE. So you definitely have to keep Karrion Kross in WWE. I will not believe that he's actually not in WWE until he steps foot in AEW or somewhere else. I'm not going to believe it until then. You can report all you want. Show me the alumni section all you want. I'm not going to believe it until I see him on a separate brand, because Triple H will blur those lines between reality and kayfabe. Look at the Seth Rollins injury. He loves doing it, and this feels like it could be another one of those situations. WWE reaching a deal with ESPN. PLEs will be on there starting in 2026 with WrestleMania. This is a smart move if it is within TV providers and streaming services. If you already have ESPN, they're saying you might have access to this app that ESPN is releasing. Smart move, because every average sports entertainment fan has some type of access to ESPN, which means you would have some type of access to this app to stream these pay-per-views. I mean, it makes sense, right? Everywhere else internationally, everything is on Netflix. They don't need to have 12 different services to view Raw, SmackDown, and then PLEs, right? US obviously had that because of the Peacock deal, and then Netflix, and then SmackDown still on cable. So if that's the route, it makes a lot of sense. But there's rumors that it may not be that way. $30 a month obviously is cheaper than what pay-per-views used to be, but it is 2025, about to be 2026 when this happens. That's the one big thing on AEW, right? AEW charges a lot for their pay-per-views. Fans are used to that. With streaming services, the amount of streaming services fans are expected to have, you can't be charging people for PLEs and pay-per-views like that. So if that's the route we go, that's going to be a big downgrade on this move. But we'll wait and see. We have till March when the Peacock deal is up to fully see. And quickly, AEW, Forbidden Doors coming up, All In Texas. Adam Page winning the world title from Jon Moxley. Got to give a ton of credit to Tony Khan and AEW. This whole storyline, not sure if this was the plan the entire time, because there was a lot of question marks throughout this storyline that didn't make a ton of sense. But the way this ended with Bryan Danielson showing up and others to go against Mox to help Adam Page, of course, it happening in Texas. It's not nearly as big as the Cody Rhodes moment at WrestleMania in Philly, but it felt like an actual solid way to end a chapter of a story, to move on with the world title, to kind of have it all culminate and come together. And that's exactly what they did with Adam Page and Jon Moxley and All In Texas. But now MJF is the guy looking at Adam Page, winning the Casino Gauntlet, getting that world title match. This is a big test for MJF, and this is not a knock on him. It's more on the writing, because this is an easy story for MJF to go for the low-hanging fruit with Adam Page. You're a cowboy, you're a Texan, you're an alcoholic, whatever. I want to see MJF develop in storytelling because it's been tough. They go to the same stories over and over with MJF. The low-hanging fruit, the shit heel, the, joining a faction. Can we trust him? Can we not? Now he's in the faction and it looks great. And then they don't trust him. We did that over and over with Adam Cole, with Chris Jericho. We've done it all. Tell a solid story with Adam Page and MJF. MJF specifically, that doesn't involve MJF doing the exact same thing he's been doing in stories for the last 4 to 5 years. Elevate him because he is as talented as it gets. And the storylines that they're giving him have not fully shown that of what MJF could be. And this potential storyline with Adam Page in the world title picture is the perfect way to show that he's grown away from that. He has progressed. He has moved on. And he is as big of a star as he has been, just in a different way, because you need to change with the times, especially in the wrestling industry. But Adam Page winning that title at All in Texas, the way they did that, all coming together to end that story, was a beautiful way to do it. I loved every second of that. Solid show overall, and shout out to Adam Page. Roar Around the Ring is available on YouTube at Roar Around the Ring. Follow on socials at JV Around the Ring. We'll be back with a full episode in September, coming off Clash in Paris. Of course, we also have Forbidden Door as well at the end of August. I'm Justin Valentine. Talk to you guys very soon.